Let's be very real about something. If you've been looking at your portfolio lately or the real estate market, you've probably noticed a massive underperformer, especially in Toronto, and that's, of course, real estate. Forget the old advice for a second. Over the last 5 to 10 years, real estate has quietly been one of the worst performing major asset classes. And obviously, that's true in Canada, but it's not just us. This trend is actually global. Meanwhile, every other asset class looks like it's on steroids. Stocks, Canadian equities, and the S&P 500 are hitting all-time highs almost daily. Commodities, gold, silver, all-time highs. Crypto, back to all-time highs. Even basic goods, food, cars, you name it, they're all going up in price. It's like every asset class decided to bulk up while real estate is just gotten left behind. And when everything around you is going parabolic, and let's say you're only in real estate and you see the price of housing just continue to go down and flatline, and you have to ask, what's going on? And for decades, real estate, especially in Canada and the Toronto area, has been seen as the foundation of generational wealth, the ultimate safe long-term play. It was the thing you bought, you sat on it, and you watched appreciate while you just slept. It was supposed to be anti-fragile, right? Always going up eventually. But lately, the story has been changed and it's different. It's forced people to ask a question they never thought they'd have to ask. Is owning real estate still a guaranteed path to wealth? Because here's the reality, the carrying costs of real estate are brutal. And I can attest to that as someone who owns it. Interest rates, taxes, maintenance, insurance, everything is up and more expensive. And the numbers just don't make as much sense as they used to, especially when it comes to investing in real estate for the most part. If you had put that money into an S&P 500 index fund, let's say, instead of a rental property over the last 5 years, you'd likely be way ahead. And of course, we have to incorporate the leverage factor, which I'll talk about. But you also wouldn't have to deal with all the tenants, repairs, surprise expenses. Now, that doesn't mean real estate's bad. I obviously still believe in it long term, but it does mean that we're in a different phase of the current cycle of the market. And when people start saying real estate is a bad investment, it's actually a sign that sentiment has totally flipped, and maybe flipped too far. It's too negative, because we have to understand that markets move in cycles, right? All of them do, including real estate. Nothing stays hot forever. And we have to think how hot Canadian real estate and Toronto real estate got for years, and it did not slow down really at all. And when you look at, let's say, the stock market, they have had an incredible run as well, fueled by zero interest rates, AI hype. We all know about the AI stocks, and now the investor FOMO. But while that's been happening, real estate just continues to cool off and go downwards and sideways. And that's usually when the opportunity shows up. And I'm going to explain why. I've always believed through my past experiences, when people are extremely fearful and they think something is going to go to zero or keep going down, that's usually when you should be greedy, especially when it comes to something like real estate, where people need it to live. If someone doesn't own real estate, they're going to have to rent it. Someone needs real estate at least to live in, right? It's not going to go to zero. There's practically no way for it to go to zero. And if it did happen, it would be unbelievable. And right now, people are very fearful about real estate. The headlines are negative. All the comments on social media are negative. It's constant, fearful, negative news. And sellers at the same time are frustrated. But that's exactly where I think the smart investors are now trying to come in. They're paying attention to all this. And we have to talk about a common counter argument that I hear every time I bring this up. And the first one is, but real estate is all about leverage. And it's true. Most people don't own a $500,000 home with all cash. They put down $100,000 and finance the rest. The leverage is what magnifies returns when prices go up. But it also can magnify losses when the market goes down. And here's the thing about leverage. It actually works both ways for sure, right? In a flatter down market, like I said, that magnifies the losses too. And if you add in today's high interest costs, property taxes, maintenance, that leverage can quickly become a liability. The second argument right? You need somewhere to live. Totally fair. A home is first and foremost a shelter. And when your shelter is cash flow negative by thousands of dollars every month, it's hard to pretend it's a solid financial investment at the same time. In fact, for some people, renting, investing the difference in, let's say, the S&P or a global index fund might actually build wealth faster right now than owning would. And the third argument is, yeah, but your primary residence is tax-free. And that is true. And it's a massive advantage of owning a home in Canada. The primary residence exemption is truly a gift. But the question is, does that offset a decade of little or no price growth? And for some homeowners, maybe not. So where does that leave us? We've got this massive disconnect while we look at real estate stagnating and everything else is booming. Literally every other asset class is booming. Something eventually has to give. And will real estate come back to its long-term average and then, of course, start to appreciate again? Or will we keep seeing this imbalance with housing and everything else where housing just underperforms for a long time? And no one really knows for sure, but history tells us that cycles turn eventually, right? We are clearly in the down cycle of the real estate market. And I think this is where the mindset and psychology comes in. Right now, there's so much fear, so much negativity, so many people that are just spouting bad things about it. That's usually a sign for the smart investors to come in and start to pick up and buy more. It's just like the stock market, right? If the stock market was collapsing 40, 50% and the whole world looks like it's going in flames, if you just close your eyes and press the buy button and then look 20 or 30 years down the line, I'm sure we'll be very happy you made that decision. Let's say COVID, when the market was starting to plummet, had you just start putting money in when everything looked like the world was going to end, it eventually recovered, and it actually recovered very quickly, especially with COVID. Now, real estate doesn't have to beat every asset class every year. It just has to hold value, right? Generate income and give you the leverage over time. You, of course, can live in it, rent it out, you can refinance it, use that refinance to, let's say, borrow against it to buy more. And of course, you have to be very careful when you do that because you could over leverage yourself. You can't really do that with an ETF or, let's say, a crypto wallet or with other cryptocurrencies. You technically can borrow against, let's say, an ETF portfolio, let's say in a margin account, right? But that's a different thing. You can't really do that so much, let's say, as with a registered TFSA, RSP, these types of things. So right now, real estate looks like one of the worst performers, but I don't think the story ends here because every time people say that something is dead, real estate is dead, the stock market is dead, particular sector in the stock market is dead, this particular asset is dead, that's when it ends up being the moment to buy, and it will eventually come back. And I think we have to ask, are you fearful of real estate right now, or are you starting to get greedy? Or do you see my perspective in the psychology of if you take the chance and go against the herd when everyone is so negative and the sentiment is so fearful, that in the next 5 to 10 years, you will be very happy? Because usually the pattern is when you go against the herd in these extreme environments, you tend to outperform everyone else over the long term. So I just want to see what you guys think about this particular debate of whether real estate is still a good investment over the long term, even though it has been underperforming over the last few years. So let me know what you guys think of that.